Hi, you guys. Maybe this will be a short video. I was just cracking myself up trying to look up some history. Uh, I need to go out into the garage and find some books that one of my sisters gave me. It's like a collection of weirdly shaped, not shaped books, but odd sized books, and they're soft and they're thin, but they're packed. Each page is packed with little bitty pictures of just the whole history from the beginning to the end. And there's several of those books. And anyway, I guess she taught her children with them if she finished using them. But I've just been curious about this Iranian thing because I do know, Queen Esther. And just, when you read the Bible anyway, it's nice to know if you had, I mean, people teach the Bible, but you don't always know chronological order. So I kind of wanted to know. Because I know King Cyrus, and they were speaking that upon Trump last time. And, I kind of know about King Cyrus, but not a lot. And I mean, where does it fit in with Egypt and the book of Daniel? And I mean, there's so many captivities, right? So I was just Googling it like little by little. I have one question, then it lead to another question so I think I might have gotten it. I might have gotten it down. So, it was Abraham and Sarah got called from the land of Ur. Now, I wrote a phone number down. Hey, if anybody needs, I just saw this on one of the TBN channels. It's called Covenant House. If there's any teenagers that are homeless, and I wanted to get into some politics again, this money situation and this kid I saw who went and saw Trump. He's the little 23-year-old kid. His name is Shirley, and not his first name, his last name, and all the stuff he uncovered. At first I thought, anyway, I happened upon him. I'd heard about the Tommy guy, Tommy Robinson, but now this Shirley kid, he started investigating the same things, and he busted even more stuff wide open. And like the fentanyl crisis. Well, anyway, okay. This is called the Covenant House. If there's any teenagers that are homeless, and 1 out of every 5 homeless teenagers are from sex trafficking. And this is 1844 359 0406. You can call that number if you know or see any homeless young adults. Okay, now, so yeah, we know about Abraham and Sarah. They got called from the land of Ur, which is in Mesopotamia, which is, from what I remember looking it up before, it's sort of a special area, like in a valley between maybe like Iraq, and it's its own country. It's a Mesopotamia. So it's not really, but I could be wrong. And Google probably changes things all the time. Well, so then God calls them. Now, granted, this is like the second millennium of the world when Abraham is called. So Abraham, his family, and Sarai is his half-sister, his family are Mesopotamian. See, being a Jew are from Abraham. He wasn't necessarily a Jew. He was actually an Iraqi, Egyptian type. Maybe Sarah was Egyptian. You know what I mean? So they had already their nationalities. They were already in the second millennium. And his father, I learned this on a cartoon, on a child's cartoon. Okay, so, and those are good. The biblical child cartoons, about the Bible. Probably saw it on TBN. So Abraham's father worked in the temple and made idols. And that temple, I forget the name of it. It starts with a Z, I think. And that temple was already 1,000 years old. That was an old temple. And they worshiped the moon god. I'm pretty sure. You know, over there in the Middle East, the moon. Okay, so, yeah, the Jews, before they were the Jews, with all the circumcision and stuff, and even Abraham, like in Hebrews 11, Abraham had faith before he was circumcised, you know what I mean? So, like Paul explains all that. He's like, well, he obeyed God before circumcision and after, and whatever, all that. Okay, so they got called away from that pagan stuff, okay? And they are the first Jews. It's kind of like, it's not only a nationality, but, so basically, if you're an Iraqi Jew, well, I don't know, you shouldn't be in Iraq anymore. You know, whatever Abraham and Sarah were, you can look it up. But I looked it up a long time ago. The land of Ur is kind of Iraqi. Okay, that's where Babylon was as well, also. And yeah, it's just these history things are so interesting to me. Every now and then I'll look them up and then I forget about them because I don't connect all the dots at that moment. So it doesn't really jive as a big picture. So when I get fragments like that, it's harder to remember. So anyway, then, yeah, so God calls them away and he calls them now Jews. This is exactly why in the New Testament, when is it Paul talking about that if you're a Jew, because that's where they went first, is Israel. Jesus is a Jew and Jesus was born in Israel and it all started there with the Jews. So where was I going with that? So the Jews, I lost my train of thought because I bunny trailed just a second. But yeah, okay, so let's start over. Penny's got this huge bone for pit bulls, but hey, I couldn't resist. Okay, now, so they went Abraham and Sarah, after, the flood and everything, the earth evolved and for a couple millennia, okay, a couple thousand years. And then Abraham and Sarah are whatever the nationality they were, but he was going to be the father of many nations, many children, right? Oh, that's why in the New Testament, when they're saying that those Jews that became Christians, Messianic Jews, I hope I don't forget again where I'm going here. Yeah, okay, in the New Testament, if a Gentiles then now wanted to come in, they're grafted in. Somewhere in there it says we're Jews also. Okay, because look, Jesus called that woman a dog. He called the Canaanite woman a dog when she asked about her daughter. And everybody fails to point the fact out that Jesus came from a Canaanite. Rahab is like his great-great-great-grandma. Rahab the Canaanite. Okay, do you see where this all is going? So a Jew is a Jew. Everyone after Abraham and Sarah, from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? They're all the original Jews. Well, when they would conquer Canaan, they would conquer it, and whoever wanted to become a Jew, like remember Ruth and the lady, what's her name? She said, where you go, I go, and your people are my people, and your God is my God. See? And she wasn't a Jew, but her mother-in-law was. Who's her mother-in-law? Darn it, I'm sorry with the names, but you can figure it out. So that woman who went and slept with Boaz, right? Her husband died. Naomi's sons. Okay, so this was her daughter-in-law. She wasn't even a Jew, but Naomi was. Is that her name? Well, there's a book about her, Ruth. So Ruth laid down with Boaz. Okay, so the point is, okay, so Jesus calls this Canaanite woman a dog. She's like, well, even the dogs eat from the crumbs of the, right? So, but yet Jesus has got genealogy of a Canaanite, because that's the promised land, the Cana. When Abraham and Sarah went, and Jesus says, I'm going to show you the promised land, it's Canaan. But it's, the world has been around for like 2,000 years. So there's some people living over there, and they're called the Canaanites. So this is why, Abraham and Sarah, they had to kind of conquer them. I think God killed some of them, and others that wanted to convert, they converted to Judaism and became Jews. Okay, so you guys hopefully can connect the dots with that, what I'm trying to say. But a Jew is from the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? And we had already been living on the earth for like 2,000 years. So remember, the tongues and the languages were mixed up and everything. So God took Abraham and Sarah, who had their own language, and then they're moving off to Canaan, who had another different language. But I'm just saying that while Sarah and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were having many children and everything, there were along the way, not only in Canaan, but others, like even the Gentiles after Jesus, whoever wanted to become, like, not rebel against. See, Abraham and Sarah, when they went into Canaan, they also ministered to the people to teach them that there's only one God, and it's God. So when they got converts, even then, they became Jews, part of the family, like Sarah had an Egyptian handmaiden, but she might have stayed a pagan. I don't know. So my point is I'm going to find those books in the garage somewhere. I'll look through them, because I know that after the flood, there were some bad sons, and I think Ham, and and this is what, 2,000 years before Abraham and Sarah. So because of Noah and the children, those people on Noah's Ark, the 8 souls that replenished the earth, some of them were bad, and they obviously got so bad they built no, it's not that place. That temple in Mesopotamia where Abraham and Sarah came from, the land of Ur, those were bad people from Noah that replenished the earth. For like 2,000 years, Noah's 8 people were populating the world, right? And then for 2,000 years, and then they got bad. So Abraham always thought in his mind, even though he knew what his dad was, a multi-god worshiper and all this, Abraham always felt it in his heart that there's just one God and there aren't multiple gods, and so on and so forth. So maybe that's why God chose him. I don't know. But back to this Iranian war thing. And that is the head of the snake. So yeah, when this all started, October 7th, we figured out quickly that it was Iran. But Iran is the biggest. So anyway, this is how it happens. So then Abraham and Sarah are converting some Canaanites, killing some Canaanites, etc. And then there's that famine. So they go into Egypt, Um, maybe I should skip some. So anyway, you already know this stuff already, but I was just going to try to connect it a little for you because we have the book of Daniel and they got kidnapped and everything. They're always being kidnapped into captivity, and we read about it in Isaiah, Ezekiel, Daniel. They're always being taken into Babylon. Okay. Well, there's such a thing called Neo-Babylon. So that's basically before Esther. So I thought I'd start from day one, but never mind. Maybe I won't. So, so yeah, Abraham and Sarah, and then he's the father of many children and everything. And every territory in Canaan, which is a lot bigger than Israel is today. It's a lot bigger. It's like all those countries that are around it, all the countries that you read about in the Bible. Like Jordan, Gaza is actually Judah, and Jesus is the line of the tribe of Judah. So actually, Gaza is the main Jesus territory, from what I understand. So anyway, so yeah, they went to Canaan, and then they were getting more Jew converts and having babies too, right? Sarah Rachel and everybody, okay? Well, don't forget that Abraham sent his servant into his homeland, I think, to get a wife for Isaac. Remember? So see, all these things I would love to know. Because he said, go into my homeland. And then so anyway. Okay, so then they are in Canaan and they're getting more Jewish converts, right? Abraham and Sarah. Then there's a famine. So then that all happened with Joseph and all. And they went in there. Then Joseph became the king's right-hand man, so he brought all of his family to Egypt to live with him over there in Egypt. And I guess they said, forget about Canaan for a while. We'll hang out in Egypt for a while. So they did. Then when Joseph died and his bones were there and everything, right? And he even said when he was dying, he says, when you go back to the promised land, he was telling his Jew people, his family, all the Jews there, Abraham and everybody, I guess, died in Egypt. And he said, when you leave out of Egypt and go back to the promised land, which is Canaan, when Joseph died, he didn't know they were going to get into slavery over there in Egypt. So he said, carry our bones back home to the promised land, right? So yeah, Joseph died. They forgot all the new pharaohs, forgot all about who Joseph was, and they didn't care anymore. And they were over there like 400 years, birthing them more babies and more right? And they were born in Egypt, they were raised in Egypt, they were like Egyptians, but they kept their... See, when Abraham, or was it Noah, one of them walked around with a staff, because there were no Bibles. Joyce Meyer, I've got her saved there in my blessings video. She was explaining there were times where we didn't have Bibles. We didn't have churches. We didn't have preachers. How did people know anything about the word, right? Well, that reminded me when she said that Abraham had his staff, right? And he probably passed it on to Moses somehow. But anyway, this staff had the whole law, everything written on his staff. And then when they would go to school, like you'll see it in the excavation digs in Israel, they find these little clay tablet stones. Those are what the little kids would use to learn. And no, they didn't have parchment paper. Okay, well, whatever. Am I getting in the weeds here? So, all right, what happened next? Where am I? Okay, so they went over to Egypt, and then all those pharaohs died, and they forgot who the Jews were and Joseph, and they started being mean to them. And then that's when God rose up Moses. And first of all, they were killing all the babies. And so they saved Moses and hid him, and then he floated down the river and he was raised by royalty for 40 years. Then he, killed somebody, a slave, he stuck up for one of the slaves. Okay, so then he's on the backside of the wilderness, wherever he was, I don't know, and he had his wife, who was not a Jew. Okay, and anyway, so see, the Jews did mix if they converted to, I'll serve your God, I love your God. All through the Old Testament, we hear it. When Daniel was in the lion's den, he didn't get ate by the lions. So he says, I'll serve your God. You see, there were always these conversions to being monotheistic, God alone, right? So whoever wanted to do that, I guess, became a Jew. Anyway, so, hey, this is just bare bones, basics, and I don't know all of the real ins and outs, so don't be quoting me saying anybody's a Jew here, because I'm not. I'm not saying that. Yes, Dad, hang on a minute. And then, okay, so they come back into Canaan, into the promised land after, Moses sets them free and everything, and then he's using that staff, that might have been Abraham's staff that he inherited. Who knows? So then, Bob, he might be out of water. Hold on. So then, here, Dad, get your Wawa dinky. Oh, sorry. Ay, he's out of water. Yes, get your dinky, Dad. Okay, so then these, they come back, okay? They come back and, okay, never mind. I should just stop while I'm led. I gotta go to the bathroom. So they get led by Moses back into the promised land, which is where all this Jericho stuff happening, because that was the first city they had to conquer. That's after the 40 years of wilderness, though. And then they had to conquer. They were getting out. Remember, they saw the giants and everything. Here, Bobs. Dada. Here's your choo-choo. All right, well, anyway, I didn't really make many notes, so I'm just doing this on the fly off my brain, and I obviously can't concentrate. So, anyway, the point is that all that history, if you want to go ... and put them in order and everything. And then, so there were these Babylonians, and that's where you read about Belshazzar, okay? Over in Daniel, because they were captives again. They got released from Egypt, okay? And that when they got released from Egypt, going back to Canaan, getting through Jericho and demolishing it, because those were Canaanites, the 400 years they were in Egypt, the Canaanites multiplied. The Canaanites that remained and were left, that didn't get killed or convert, they were multiplying over there in the promised land while they were in Egypt for 400 years. So when they came back, it was Canaan, the promised land was all built up for 400 years by all kinds of people. Canaanites mostly. And then, see, I can't remember from one thing to the next. So then, so I'm just going to talk about so when they finally got in all that, this is where you get to the part where there's King David, there's King Saul, there's King David, King Solomon, okay? When they got done wandering for 40 years and got back into the promised land and had to clear it all out, that's when they had all those years of peace. Well, David had war. Saul, even before Saul, you can look up what was before Saul, but when they finally got everything cleared out of Canaan, and that's when the temple was built. The first temple, I think, is David David wasn't allowed to build a temple, so I don't know. I know Solomon's temple was the second temple, and it was the last temple ever. The first temple. So anyway, we read about all this stuff in the Bible, but do we sometimes ever even know what's what? Like when is what happened and where? So this is what I'm just trying to explain, and you can look it up yourself anyway. And you could probably just do it Google by Google by Google, step by step by step, right? So, but this stuff I kind of know, but I'm just trying to get to this Persia thing, because the Jews, when they were finally in their land of Canaan, Babas, I'm doing a video, hold on. They got all this built up, and then bam, God started getting mad at them for getting too comfortable and start worshiping idols and all this garbage like in Ezekiel. Okay, so he's like, you're gonna get it. Babylon's going to come in here and get your ass. And he's going to carry you away into captivity. The book of Daniel's all about it. Bob's here. Here, Bob. So God's like, you're going to get carried off into captivity. You've been in the promised land, King David, King Solomon, it was peaceful in King Solomon. And then you guys blew it. So I'm going to come, Jeremiah is screaming it. You better repent. Babylon is coming. You're toast. That was called the Neo-Babylonian. That was King Nebuchadnezzar, right? Of the Chaldees. He destroyed the first temple. Okay? And he took all the Jews over there to Iraq. Okay? Then, several hundred years, I guess, then there's the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, which is Belshazzar. I can't say it right now, but I was able to say it like 30 minutes ago. So you know who I'm talking about, where he's having a party and he's being blasphemous, and he's using the sacred temple vessels that were plundered when his daddy Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon hauled all the Jews off to Babylon in captivity. Okay? So Belshazzar is sitting up in there mocking God and everything and using the sacred temple because they destroyed the first temple. I forget who built it, but it wasn't King Solomon because it was before King Solomon's temple. So yes, then that's when that's the handwriting on the wall. The writing is on the wall. You have been weighed in the balance and found wanting, and you're going to die tonight. And he died. And that's when the Persians took over Babylon, Belshazzar, and all the little Jews were over there in Babylon, Iraq, right? And that king of Persia, who was, I think, Cyrus. King Cyrus, king of Persia, conquered Belshazzar over there mocking and using the sacred temple. When they plundered it and destroyed it, they took all the booty. They probably had the Ark of the Covenant, who knows? Well, King Cyrus of Persia came over there and he, instead of taking all the Jews back to his place for captivity, he said, look, Jews, go on home. I don't care about ya. I'm just glad I conquered this jerk over here. And I'm going to just take over his land and his stuff. But you take your pretty little old selves and all your little goodies, and you can go back home and live however you want to. I don't care. Have your own little religion and whatever you want. I don't care. Yeah, I have nothing against you. I have nothing, absolutely nothing against you. I'm just wanting this. If you're slaves here, go, leave. You're free. Get out of here. Go. So they did. All the Jews in Babylon got to go back home. And I think that could, I don't think that's when no. Okay, so they've never had a temple. No, wait a minute. Maybe I'm wrong about the King David and the Solomon having a first. No, wait, because Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the first temple. So when King Cyrus of Persia lets all the Jews go from Babylon, right? They all run home. And that's probably when King David, I thought King David built a temple. But then later on, God says, I don't want you to build me a temple because you're too bloody. Maybe King David was going to build him a separate temple. I don't know. But King Solomon, his son, ended up building the second temple. But the first temple got destroyed. Anyway, I'm not going to try to piece that together. Right? Okay, so then all these Jew kids, they run back home and they start rebuilding all these hundreds of years. Okay, and then, but anyway, the point is that King Cyrus let them all go. And they went back home, and I think their Jewishness resumed. Did I write any notes? Maybe I thought I could take it from here, but I can't. So anyway, so they all went home, but they end up getting captured again and again and again. Or, well, because they were under Roman Empire, Roman rule, and then the Constantine of, no, wait a minute. Okay, whatever. I didn't make any notes, and I can't seem to do it on the fly because it's confusing to me. But, it would be helpful if some teachers would, kind of go through these, in order. I mean, I know when they teach in the book of Daniel or Ezekiel or Isaiah, they might say, yeah, this is the year of so-and-so in the year of such and such and da-da-da. But, I mean, it'd be nice to know in the timeline, what was before all that and what was after all that, right? So see, when I'm done with video, I'm probably going to remember, oh, why did I say that? That's so stupid. I knew that. Anyway, so all I'm saying is Iran is probably going to go down now because they're weak. What is his name? Khomeini. He already said, somebody said that he said how he's going to run to Russia if they start taking over, right? Well, Trump says we're negotiating. Yeah, right. Trump should say, well, go on ahead and go to Russia unless you want to something between the eyes. I mean, that's some kind of a threat or a negotiation for Khomeini. He's over here saying, well, I'm going to flee to Russia if they start coming in too strong, right? They're his people, his slaves, his subjects. He's a tyrant, right? He's worse. He's a terrorist. So I guess he had said that. He's like, well, he's going to go flee to Russia. Well, go. Save us some time and trouble. Go on ahead of Russia. Because if you don't, we're going to go nab you. What is that saying? Alive or dead? Those old Western posters wanted, dead or alive. That's right. Okay, so, yeah. And I remember that in Trump's first term, I guess, something to the effect they were calling him similar to King Cyrus. They also, Jehu, likened him to Jehu. And I'm just thinking, because the Persians have pretty much stayed the Persians. Yeah, because, you got people like the Ottoman Turks. They did some stuff. Anyway, I'm going to go find my books. And I'm going to go look through them because they have books on Adam and Eve. The timelines and stuff and the kids they had and then what happened there and then the Noah's Ark thing and then And it's kind of like a Where's Waldo type thing where instead of really a lot of words, there's a lot of pictures and they're going in lines and they're little bitty bodies, little bitty. Anyway, it's interesting. And I looked through them one time and they have like a little series. So one book covers whatever and another book covers, and one little skinny book covers a whole bunch, and then you get to the next book so anyway, okay. I guess my point was, and then the political thing, like, I just have some beef. Like that Shirley kid who went over that stuff, it got me to thinking, like, tax money, however many, $24 billion was lost, and each state. I mean, you ever heard those infomercials like for 19 cents a day, you could feed this orphan over here and such and such. Well, that's basically what they do with us. They're like, for such and so many cents a day out of this person's check, so many cents on the dollar out of this person's check, and all these little bitty cents add up to billions and trillions of dollars, and then they allocate it. See, this is the sickening part with these. It's double sickening. First, you got people that can't stand Trump. He's too crass. We want some city slick and smooth talker like Biden or Obama, right? Let me tell you about these nice, sweet little guys. What they're doing is they're talking like you want. Tell me lies. Tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies. How many of these dumbasses want to hear lies? As long as you're a sweet talking liar. Oh, yeah. And all the while, they're sliding it in. And you don't even know it. Because these tax money dollars, they're getting lost. And I'll bet if you Googled each one of your governors in your state, how much does Governor so-and-so's house cost? How much does his house cost? I'll show you the clip of that Shirley kid. He's got a couple little tidbits in it, and it's a clip-ish, like 11 minutes clip. You can go see the whole episode on the channel that it came from. And that guy's got 5 million followers. So he ain't no chopped liver. So this kid, so when you get these smooth talking presidents and Democrats, you love the way they talk. They're so diplomatic. That's because they're con artists. They're taking your tax money. On my local news today, I've heard plenty. I should have taken notes. You can look up what my local news channel 2 in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, is talking about tonight. There's fraud of politicians that they have found millions of dollars in fraud that was supposed to go to the COVID aid or to the housing aid. This is why young kids can't buy homes, because these smooth talking politicians that we love to vote for because they speak so nice, and they're raping you. They know that we'll keep them quiet with the little crumbs. As long as they can have their little piece of the pie, they're never going to complain. Well, guess what? You can have more than a piece of a pie. And not only that, all the homeless people can have some too. And all the drug addicts, they can have some too. They wouldn't be on drugs if they hadn't lost everything, because there are billions of aid money every year. Every state is allotted. And what are they doing with it? They're just going to let you have some crumbs to get by. Let's lower their taxes so they can afford to feed their face with junk food and fry their brain with alcohol and junk food. As long as they can afford all that and their little movies and their music, bullshit, garbage, then they'll be happy. But no, there's billions of money for you guys and me and all of us. Enough to go around. And when you hear what this kid Shirley has uncovered, all these wicked little smooth talking people. This is why we got drug problems all over. And yeah, I see now why he's going after Venezuela. But it's in your own backyard is feeding Venezuela to feed all the fentanyl. You guys, let's just stop being dumb. And you need tigers. You need a lion, tigers, and bears like Trump to. And I even Googled. I said, are there tax police over there in the White House? You know, like, why so much fraud? Why are the governors and senators? Last I checked, a governor and senator, they're for the people. They're just a regular old peon like us. Why are they living in mansions? They weren't living in mansions before they became political figures. Okay? Just connect the dots like you connect the dots of the Bible dots. Connect the dots. I could Google everything and find piece by piece by piece and teach myself on what about these tax. They're called tax subsidies and stuff. Like one year, this year in 2025, Georgia got $25 billion in tax subsidies. And you know how I kind of figured this out was one year I heard on the news here, Governor Brian Kemp got up in there and said, hey, we got, and the $1 billion he mentioned, I can't remember what it was, but it was like in the multi-billions. It was like $20 billion. He goes, oh, the $20 billion tax, blah, blah, we got. I'm going to give some to you people that need house tax funding. I'm going to cut your taxes. At the end of the year, you don't have to pay that. You can pay that. It was only like $100 off. It was no big deal. And he mentioned billions. What'd you do with the rest of the billions? Huh, honey? What? I'm not saying he's crooked. I think he's a pretty good guy. I don't know nothing really about him. But okay, I probably have other notes here. But oh, yeah. So see, in 2025, it's called fiscal year and significant surplus, leading to over $14.6 billion. General fund reserves by July. Okay, in 2022, it was $6.6 billion. You guys, this is just one. All your congressmen and senators and governors around the world here, around America, they're supposed to be fighting for these kinds of things. But instead, they're pocketing it all because Americans don't even know what we're doing, what they're doing. And they're not even being policed. Like this Shirley kid pointed out, the guy over there in California with all the drug addicts, he's living in a multi-million-dollar home. Why? He's just a government agent. We the people. Where'd he get the money? What's his occupation? What did he do before he was a scam editor? That's what they are. They're governors and senators. They're scam governors and scam editors. You know, they just take billions and they're in control of the billions, y'all. You don't think they're going to say, oh, what's a couple million off for a house out of these billions? Let me allocate it to here, 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 and here. And then this Shirley kid is talking about $24 billion allocated for some drug stuff. And they're not doing nothing with it. Instead, they're giving them drugs. Okay? They're trying to destroy. Okay, these are the people that you think are such smooth talkers. We lie, tell me sweet little lies. Trust me, I've had boyfriends in my past. If I were ever honest about, I don't know what, and if I kind of offended them more than once, I don't even know what the topic was. It wasn't anything super insulting. You know what I mean? But I noticed and I wondered, why do they say this? They say stuff like, well, you should lie to me. I don't want to hear that. Lie. And I'm like, who in their right mind would want to be lied to? I wouldn't. Like, if you were to tell me I'm wrong and you talk to me the way I talk to you, like, get a grip, la la la, being hard ass. If I needed it, I'm like, great, Don't lie to me. Don't lie. If you tell me, look, you're being a dumbass, stupid, idiot, whatever, not that I've ever said that to anybody with the boyfriends example. I don't know what I've said to them, but I wouldn't say to them anything that I wouldn't want truth, right? So whatever it was I would say, I noticed a pattern. It was like, why are they saying this stuff? Why are they saying lie to me? I mean, how many women included want to be lied to? Like, don't tell me I look fat in this. Tell me I look good. You guys, stop the mentality. Stop it. You need the truth. Because your governors and senators know your mentality that you want to be lied to. So they're doing it. And is it worth all the money you're going to lose that they're going to pocket? And then they get to throw it at other things that you don't care about. Anyway, you need to grow up. And if somebody told me I needed to grow up and they were a wise person, I can tell if you're just doing it to be a shithead, mean person. And I'm going to tell you to get out of my face. But if you are a discerning, good, wise, trustworthy, discerning person and you told me I was being an idiot and to stop and grow up, I would be like, okay. I'm like, how? What is wrong? What's wrong with me? How do I fix it? How do I right the situation? And it's the same thing with the Bible. You look at the Bible, it's a mirror. It's smacking you all the time, right? Okay, so anyway, just look it up yourself. It's called surplus. And I don't even know what that means. But all I know is that we pay taxes and they're pocketing them. And I'll give you Bible verses here that are good, off topic. These are good Bible verses that I read across. And I was like, wow, this is shocking. Wait a minute, I may have too many notes. This is Isaiah. I ran across this like last week and I've really been thinking about it. Maybe a few days ago. Okay, Isaiah 63:17 says, O Lord, why hast thou made us to err from thy ways, and hardened our heart from thy reverence, from thy fear? Return, for thy servant's sake, the tribes of thine inheritance. Of course, he's talking to the Jews. I'm just saying, they're basically saying, Lord, you have made us to err. You can read it in another translation. Here's the Berean study. Why, O Lord, do you make us stray from your ways and harden our hearts from fearing you? Okay, and then Luke, I like that one. Luke 17:10 says, Jesus says, so likewise you, when you shall have done all those things which are commanded you, say to yourself, we are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do. In other words, you're following the commandments. That's your reasonable service. And if that's the only thing you're doing, you're an unprofitable servant because you should be bearing fruit. Because you're just doing the bare minimum, I guess. He's just telling us, when you've done the commandments, say to yourself, you're an unprofitable. Luke 17:10, so likewise ye, when ye shall have done all those things which are commanded you, say, we are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do, which is our reasonable service. Okay? And then just other verses that are on my other notepad. But yeah, these are just things and like, I'll always remember Isaiah 58, the fast that the Lord has called, okay? And to loose the bonds, set the captives free, loose bonds of wickedness, wicked politicians. All they need is a policeman. Is there somebody governing these tax? I mean, they just caught a bunch of people here in Atlanta doing it for the COVID funds and the housing funds. They pocketed it all, okay? And they're going to prison. And, you know, just some other wicked stuff they're doing. Okay, so you need, your king needs to be loosing bonds of wickedness from wicked rulers and kings like democrats that tell you lies, tell you sweet little lies, and throw you little crumbs just to make you shut up and not complain, because they don't want you asking questions where the money's going. As long as you can be fed and drink your booze and shit. So undo heavy burdens and go to your ball games. Let oppressed go free. Break every yoke. Do you think all those fentanyl addicts that this kid Shirley, I'll share the link, okay, they are under a heavy yoke, and some of those people are brilliant. Brilliant. You'll hear from the guy, his name slips my mind like everything when I get on camera. He has a best friend, a Navy SEAL, special ops, all kinds of title upon title upon title, and he became a fentanyl addict and is now drugged up into oblivion, maybe dead by now. So, break every yoke. This fentanyl crisis on the streets of LA, in front of mansions, on beaches, beautiful, you know, used to be resort beaches. They're everywhere, okay? It's because of Biden and Obama misallocating funds and living in mansions instead. Well, you know, they didn't come from money like Trump has. No, these people, like the Bible says, off of your back, they got rich. But as long as you get your alcohol and your vices to keep you drunk and not sober. Now, there's a few people out there that are wise to all this, Christians like Nick Vujicic. I can't think of their names now, but they know about politics, okay? And they can figure this stuff out, and they can fight for policemen over our tax dollars so that people can watch them like a hawk and money doesn't get lost. Okay, now, I don't know anything about government and politics, you guys. Yeah, I was a court reporter for 4 years, court reporting student, and we had to know the law. Some, just so that we can write the words. And we had to know the words, and we had to know some of the law. We had to know some medical, so we can know medical terminology to write it down. And it's called writing. But law wasn't my thing, especially back then. And now, not so much. So, but besides that, while you're writing and listening, you can be daydreaming at the same time, okay? So it doesn't mean you got to know the law just because you're writing lawyer talk down. So, okay, you might learn a few things along the way, yeah, but I didn't for 4 years. Okay, so about this politics, and Trump is cleaning up the whole world. Isn't that funny? But he's doing mostly the Middle East, and he's blessing the Jews by cleaning up the Middle East. And by the way, if you look it up you got to word it a certain way. What nationality has won the most Nobel Peace Prize awards? It is a Jew. I don't care if they live in Germany. I don't care if they live in Bulgaria or France or Zimbabwe. They're dispersed. It's a Jew. Okay? So you may say, oh, well, that's a German that won that. No, it was a Jew German. It was a German Jew. Okay. But the Google is going to want to try to say, oh, but yeah. So yeah, out of all the Nobel Peace Prizes, I don't care what country they're from, whatever country, okay, they're Jews. Most of them are Jews. And you can look up the definition of a Nobel Peace Prize. It's all about humanity. That's why you get it. And the Jews wrote the book on humanity. No one needs to tell back in the after October 7th, trying to teach Biden, trying to teach the Jews how to be humane. Nobody needs to teach a Jew how to be humane. They wrote the book. They taught the world how to be humane. This is how sick Biden is, okay? And it was all a game. It was a gaslighting mind game. Okay? And you people, why is everybody clapping so long on the television over there? Anyway, there's like a marathon clap session. Oh, it's fire. I'm watching